electricity consumption.
But somebody has to still pay for it up front, right? Before, over that 3-year period, 5-year period, those costs are recovered or amortized, or call it what you like.
I entirely agree with you. We just think of it this way. Who could afford housing at the start of the career? We have done everything possible for those who can afford. But we are not investing in India's future while neglecting 90% of our children. It is an investment which will pay off like nothing else. Just imagine, just think what it will do to India. Every child in India's villages is potentially like you, me, or better.
Okay. I can give you some examples.
Please do that.
Of the 41 countries in which we have been already. I can give you an example of Uruguay. The cost of the whole project for Uruguay was less than 5% of the budget of the educational ministry. The number of dollars that they spent per books per year, per student, is about $20 per student per year. That alone means that in a very few number of years, you could pay the computer with just the savings in the number of dollars that you spent on books, because these computers will come with electronic books that will not be deteriorated with time, it will not get wet, and you will not have to transport the enormous amount of weight and the cost incurred by transporting the amount of weight to remote villages of a lot of books.
Not to mention the number of trees you have to cut down to make the paper for the books.
I can imagine that. So, yes, the government of Uruguay financed the whole project with their own resources without having to resort to the World Bank or to the international community for any single dollar. It only required one thing, the political will to do it.
Okay, so you're saying it's just political will. Satish, you go along with that. I mean, look at the numbers in India. Let's say you're saying 250 million children. Let's say 300 million children. How many of them have internet access? Forget broadband access. Forget always on high-speed broadband. What? 10% of that number? Huh?
Okay.
Roughly.
Okay.
How do you sort of leapfrog? How do you bridge that gap?
I'll show you simply.
Okay.
I said OLPC was designed to address the gaps in infrastructure. It is designed for children to experience internet even if there is no internet. Because 2 OLPC laptops and 10 and 50, they create virtual internet for children. So they get to see that, and we can connect just one and they all have it. And it's not very difficult to connect one because you talk about mobile phone being everywhere. We can do that. If we have a desire to help our poor, we have it, and I want to interject one thing here. I beg this government and our people and our leaders, please, when you start looking at education, look at the way you look at every infrastructure project. Can you afford to pay for them in the year 1? But you do create them. If you just give it the same kind of treatment as you give any investment in infrastructure, in capital investment, just see it the same way, is possible. If you want to just say, only in the case of education, I'll take all the costs in the very first year, you are upping the ante against the poor. And you are actually hurting national prosperity and the future. So I would say any investment in education of early children in primary schooling is the best investment we can make, any nation can make, which has 10 to 100 times more return or better return than anything you will get in infrastructure, road, motor cars, or anything that you want to have it.
One more argument to support what you just said is the golden opportunity to make out of the school again the beacon of enlightenment, of education and social equality. Why? Because if you provide connectivity to the school alone, not to the individual child,
but to the school.
To the school, then you make out of that school again the center of enlightenment of a whole community. We have seen 50% increase of enrollment, 50% drop in dropout rates, more than 50% of extra hours that the children remain at the school. The parents are starting to come back at school to see what's going on and to learn themselves after their working hours. The violence in the school has dropped considerably. The violence at home has considerably dropped.
You come from Medellin in Colombia, which has acquired notoriety for all the wrong reasons, for the being a hub of the cocaine traffic. Do we actually see the whole pattern of social behavior changing? You're talking about violence, you're talking about changing people's social habits.
We have done 2 things in my country of origin, Colombia. Number 1, in the slums of the city of Medellin, in two of the communities there that for 30 years not even the police or the army could enter because it was...
They were a power unto themselves.
They were a power unto themselves. It was sort of Beirut circa 1974, in which you didn't know who was shooting who.
Escobar's kingdom.
Escobar kingdom and the drug traffickers and the guerrilla, urban guerrilla leaders. There were 5 or 6 different factions that were fighting for territoriality. Today, we're in 3 of these communities, one called Commune 13 and the other one Commune in the northeastern part of town, in which every child has a computer and not a single one has been lost, stolen, or not a single child has been killed or mugged.
So you're saying this very presence of those computers and the use of that equipment has reduced violence and social
Absolutely.
tensions.
And the second one is we went with today's President Santos, then Minister of Defense Santos, to the territory where the FARC guerrilla, which is called La Macarena, in the eastern part of the country, in the jungles of the Amazon basin, and in the territory that they recovered from the guerrilla after also 20 years of not being able to enter. Every child has one of the laptops, and it has been a social redemption and a peace consolidation that we even learned from one of your people here in India. General Ray in Kashmir was the one who gave us the idea about 20 years ago when he made the army become involved in social work in Kashmir. Well, we took that one step further. Now, through computers and through education, we went to that territory that was in the hands of the guerrilla, and it was extremely violent, and you will have to go there today and see the transformation.
Mr. Satish Jha, what are some of the best practices that are taking place across the globe in terms of low-cost computing and using low-cost computing to empower communities, the underprivileged, that we in India now need to learn and learn fast?
I think when it comes to low-cost computing, like I said, you can actually create a computer to the price point that you like. Only challenge is, what will it do? As of today, if you look at any transformational effort in terms of low-cost computing, it was begun by Negroponte. And that took the shape of 1 laptop per child. There is nothing other than this which is new. Everything is patchwork. This is the holistically looking at the question of education and low-cost computing to make it affordable for children and the governments that could not do it in 60 years or 65 years of freedom. It was designed for those governments to have an opportunity to achieve their dream that they could not fulfill with their thinking, their resources, their vision, and this is made for them. I asked a question. When in '95, if you looked at telecom, you asked the telecom minister of India, how many years will you take to reach 10% of Indians? We only had 4% in 1995.
Leave alone 70% or 80%.
Answer was 2050 seemed, too close. They couldn't imagine in 2050 they could do it. What did we do that? Cell phone technology happened. I look at personally, I'm not saying anybody else does, I look at OLPC as a cell phone of education.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm going to get back to you, Mr. Jha, with some more questions on, and one issue I want to really talk about, what can this machine do? And this whole issue of energy, recharging using human power, making these gadgets not just waterproof and dust-proof, but child-proof, as you pointed out, So let's look at some of these issues. Let's look at, I want you to explain, for the benefit of those who are listening to you, those who are watching you, what this gadget can do and how it can benefit the life of a poor person, an underprivileged person, children, women, and I'll get back to you, sir. I'll take one more break. I'll come back to both of you. We are looking at low-cost computing. We are looking at how low-cost computing can actually empower people. That's a topic of discussion. We'll be back with you in a short while from now. Stay with us.